welcome here to our breakfast talk this morning on the future of London's open workspaces. And our whole attitude to workspaces has been changing very speedily, more recently, but ever since the sort of 1970s with places like 5 Dryden Street, really radical places where people came to work together, share space, and have a very different form of utilising space to the, might say, conventional lease-driven office space that is so prevalent in London. And we're seeing radical changes that are taking place, and over the years, really interesting providers of that, from Acme's Space Studios, and changing the way that we're able to access work, relate to local communities, and incubate new businesses. So we're going to hear now our first speaker will give us an introduction to the open workspace agenda. Then we're going to have a discussion and a Q&A and questions, hopefully, from the floor. But to introduce the topic, we have Sara Turnbull, who's the CEO of the Bootstrap company. Sara, over to you.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. Well done for making it here. I wanted to talk to you, first of all, about us as people, and then have a little bit of a look at London and how London relates to us, and then what all that actually means to open workspace. So just go back to this morning, and how many actually woke up in zone 1 or 2? Not bad. How many people travelled here on a foldable bicycle or a Boris bike or some sort of urban bike? Not that many, considering this is NLA. Not that many. Okay, how many people came on a suburban train from out beyond zone 6, 7, 8? Yeah. Exactly, so that's us as people. We all came from somewhere quite far away. Probably most people, even those who put their hands up for zone 1 and 2, travelled more than half an hour to get here. And that's kind of what it is. So you're going to go to work the rest of the day, you're going to go home, you may have children, you may have cats, animals, dogs, fall in love. You're probably going to go to a shop. And so I think quite often what we forget when we're in these rooms is that we are all people. And being in people means that we want to be in love. Being people means that we want to eat, sleep, as well as work. And we quite often, as with the upcoming election, we're going to hear incessantly about housing. And the upshot of the reason that so many people want to live in London and the reason that people want it to be affordable to live in London is actually because London is where we work and where our families and our friends and our loved ones are. And so we really need to start thinking about work, life, and housing all as one part of the puzzle. And so what really is shared workspace, or open workspace, is a place where if you have had an idea and been in your bedroom for a while, and you're really going mad in your bedroom and need to get out of it, that might be the beginning of your move into a co-working space or to sublet in somebody else's studio, to actually get out of your house and into a more work environment. And you might stay in an open workspace for 2, 3, 4 years, moving from sharing a desk or subletting a desk to moving into a smaller office with somebody you met who's not working in the same business as you, but together you can actually share resources and save money. You may then take on 2,000-3,000 square foot, have a bit of a problem, lose a client, and have to shrink. An open workspace is a place where all of those things can happen, and you carry on making friends, having a drink in the evening, going out and meeting people, going to the shop at lunchtime, getting something to eat. And so London as a place is changing and becoming increasingly expensive. Now, it's always been one of the most expensive cities in the world, but strange things are starting to happen. So you meet more people who travel in from Bristol for a split week, people who are moving to Sheffield or Brighton and doing a split week and commuting. And there's something about that means that at a certain tipping point of affordability, people don't really, in the creative communities or in the new startup businesses, they would rather live outside somewhere that satisfies their desire to be in the country and come into London for that moment of work and head back out than they would stay here all of the time. And so lots and lots of things are changing. Lots of large blue chip corporate businesses are wanting to get involved with open workspace because they think that more creative thinking happens when you sit in a kind of a coffee shop environment or a guild type environment where people specialise in particular fields or particular problems or concerns in society that they want to solve. and minds meet like that rather than minds meeting because you all work for the same master or company. And so you see increasingly large corporates trying to get desk spaces in open workspace, either for travelling people who are having business meetings and need to carry on working, or to entertain the younger people who've just joined their companies who want that buzz and want that excitement of working in a different way. So that's a little bit about how things are changing. And background to that, I want to take you back again to your commutes. I think I smelt 14 strangers' armpits this morning, and I'm pretty sure everybody will have had some sort of run-in with strangers in this city that we have that's full of lots and lots of different people butting up really close to each other. But I wonder how many of us can name 14 of our neighbours. And so that's probably something that 100, 200 years ago, people could name 14 of their neighbours. And one of the things that makes us as humans happy is, directly happy, and this is science, is the number of people that you know and have a personal and intimate relationship with directly correlates to your happiness. So open workspace, it's not the solution to all of the world's problems, but it is a place where people who would otherwise be isolated in their bedroom in a small startup community or working in a very small business have that chance to increase their socialisation. And with that comes business benefits as well as personal benefits. So we all like open workspace, but that's because we're called the Open Workspace Providers Group. So what we actually do for a living is provide this stuff called open workspace to people who pay us to do it, and then that allows us to get on with our lives. So, but why, I hope I've made it quite clear why we think it's a good idea and why we think it's incredibly important for London. But it is becoming harder and harder to do what we do. I'm making eye contact with Simon. He's giving a sage nod. The reason for that is because we are having to compete in a very competitive market for very expensive land. And so we've made, this is my heavily marked up version, but you can get sexy PDF copies from Lev, and you've probably got them in your packs. A 7-point workspace agenda that's really targeted at the mayoral candidates to say this is what we think you should be thinking of in your first 100 days. But it isn't just the mayor who makes London tick, it's the people who design the spaces, it's the people who commission the spaces, and it's the people who live and work in them. And so there's a lot of people in this room who are heavily involved in making workspace of the present and of the future exist. So we'd like you to hear our 7 points. To make it really simple, I've condensed the 7 points into 3. So points 1 and 2 create the new point 1, which is make more open workspace. Now, you might find it not very revolutionary that we'd say that, but that means we're asking the mayor to invest in creating new workspaces and securing new publicly owned or community owned assets that can have a long-term relationship to open workspace provision, and to recognise that it's not just for the public sector to provide these buildings, but by working in partnership with housing developers, they can actually create more space. And again, remembering the idea that living somewhere and working somewhere are kind of part of the same thing, we think this makes a lot of sense. The next 2 points actually become sub-point 2, and that is lose less workspace. So we're increasingly concerned about the rapid pace of loss of workspace. And it's not just that workspace is becoming housing through permitted development, it's that types of workspace are becoming other types of workspace. So light industrial workspace is tending to become housing plus co-working, which we love. But that means if you have a look at the demographic of whose jobs are lost and whose jobs are gained, then you see that there's something happening there around tending to be working class jobs, tending to become very upper middle class jobs. And so we just want to point out that through permitted development and through the transition of light industrial land into commercial and housing, this kind of change is happening, and we think this is something that can be focused on. So make more, lose less, and then the 3 genius ideas at the end are actually a bit about how you can do this. So the first one is to make policy that makes this happen. So that's to ensure developers offer space for small and growing businesses, either through the SIL or through Section 106, and actually leverage some of that money by recognising it's not just schools and hospitals and transport systems that are needed when you build new housing, it's actually jobs. And so by taking some of that Section 106 or SIL money and using it to invest in building places that people can work, and also that people can create businesses that create more work in the future, this makes sense. So the final 2 points are also cunningly a little bit about how to make it happen. So it's extend business relief to open workspaces. So a long time ago in the histories of the country, somebody thought it would be a good idea to take tax, and we take tax and we use it to pay for stuff that we all want. That's quite simple. And then somebody thought, why are we taking tax from charities and they're doing stuff that we all want anyway, so we don't take business rates relief from charities. And we personally think that if open workspace providers didn't have tax taken from them in the form of business rates, they would then be able to take that subsidy and use it to cross-subsidise their workspaces to make their overheads are less, so their tenants' overheads can be less. Now, everyone in the world could then set themselves up and say that they're an open workspace provider, and suddenly no one's paying business rates, and Sara Turnbull's destroyed the whole of London. So in order to stop that happening, what we're doing at the minute is working with IPPR to actually define what the value is of open workspaces so that we can measure it in a set way, and so that we can understand this is what open workspace is and what it does for us and our communities. And at this level, we believe that it could be subsidised with business rates relief. And then the final point is that we think that we need to support business support services. 2 supports in 1 sentence, that's how important this is. And the way that we reckon that we can do that is that actually the nature of open workspaces, if they're run and operated properly, they allow people to meet each other, but they allow the provider to cross-fund with the surplus that they're generating, training courses for young people in the area, training courses for the businesses that are in there, and replace services that are being taken away at other levels. So that's the end of the talk.